Welcome to Modern Block. Thank you for joining me. Sadly, this video is a little bit late in the week, but it's still ready for going to be up before the games. So yeah, let's chat in some of the games going up. So first I'm going to start off with the All Blacks and Argentina game. Some interesting developments this week as we see New Zealand trying to have a much more, testing their depth, testing the actual quality of some of their second string players in their team. Let's face it, nobody in the All Blacks is actually a second string player. They have some mean depth, and it's good. I think it's good for them to test some of that going into the World Cup year next year. So this is a good opportunity, and they're currently sitting pretty at the top of the log. So I think that's why the coach is doing it. So first things first, the interesting change is that the fact that Beauden Barrett's off for Richie Mo'unga, sorry I should remember the name there, Richie Mo'unga, and it's going to be against Nicolas Sanchez. Nicolas Sanchez has had a great game last week. A little bit of a stutter in the first week, but had a good kicking game and a good tactical kicking game. So overall, a good performance this Super Rugby Championship, and even his Super Rugby stint was pretty decent. So I think it's going to be an interesting challenge between the two, and something that Mo'unga is really going to have to showcase why he needs to be part of the World Cup team next year, behind Beauden Barrett, and maybe even start in some of the games depending on his level of performance this week. So that's going to be very interesting. After that, we've also got the forwards battle. I think this will be a strong forwards battle. Argentina looked shaky in the first week when it comes to how they played against South Africa, but the second week they put most of the fears away as they had a dominant forward battle and really stifled the ball for South Africa in that game. And the scrums were stunning, especially the first half. So we'll see how that goes. Kieran Reid has been saying online that he feels that's going to be a massive turning point in the game, and I totally agree with him. It's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. I think the actual next big thing is how, obviously, as I said, the second string team, 8 of the match day 23 have got less than 7 tests. So it's going to be interesting to see how those players showcase why they need to be part of it and why they want to actually take part in the World Cup next year. It is an honour to be part of the All Blacks team, so I'm sure all of those players are going to be putting up every last stop in that. The last but not least, one of the biggest questions on this game, I know it's not part of the New Zealand game still, is obviously there's a lot of questions being raised about the New Zealanders and their tactics against Australia. For example, Pocock has now been ruled out for the South Africa game due to the fact that his neck injuries from neck rolls, and it sounds like there's a lot of Australian players, especially Hooper, who's busy saying that he blames New Zealand for it. So there's going to be a lot of eyes on the cleanliness and the way that the style of play of New Zealand, so that they don't damage their national brand of rugby. I think that's going to be interesting to watch. So yeah, in my opinion, my prediction for the game is as simple. I think New Zealand's going to take it probably by 15 to 20 points. I know that's generous, but there's a lot of players who need to prove a lot in that team, and none of them are weak players. They just haven't played All Blacks. They've played stunning Super Rugby level games. So New Zealand, the Pumas are going to have a hard time besting them, in my opinion, especially if the forwards from the Los Pumas don't deliver what they delivered this last week, 2 weekends ago. So, or a week skipping last weekend ago. So we'll see how that goes, but I've got a feeling New Zealand's going to take it comfortably. So let's move on to the Australia Springboks game happening at Suncorp. I think it's a little bit shaky for South Africa's side. There's a horrible record at Suncorp. We haven't done very well there. We haven't actually won in Australia since 2013, so we'll have to see how that goes. Australia's putting up a pretty damn decent team. They've got, besides Pocock being out, they still have some stunning players. Folau and Cooper are going to really become a major problem. Cooper, especially with his ball stealing, and something that we've had a hard time looking after our ball. If you look at the previous game and even the England games, our ball possession and looking after the ball is a major problem currently for us. So I think that's going to be painful. The other part that we really struggled with last week was defending in the counter-attack, and that's a Falau's specialty. That and the high ball. All of our back three are rather short in comparison to Falau, so it's going to be interesting how Australia utilises him to actually bring that talent in. So I'm worried about that. On the bright side for South Africa, Kitshoff is starting. I've been harping on for a bit about it, and I feel that he is really on his one of the best scrummagers in the world at the moment, and it's sad that he's been playing second fiddle to the beast, even though I feel he's playing better. We saw it the last game where he played second half scrum, and really all of a sudden with him and Wilco Low, the scrums turned around. We had some quality scrumming experiences, and really had a lot going for us in the second half on the scrumming, and I think it helped stabilise our game. Also, there big changes. We've got Yankees getting another chance at fly half. I hold thumbs for him. Pollard, he deserves to replace Pollard currently, as Pollard has embarrassed himself on the kicking front. We'll hold thumbs that can improve, as we need a couple of quality fly halves for the World Cup next year. But at the moment, Yankees needs to also redeem himself there. The last time he played effectively in that area of the world was the final of the Super Rugby, if you consider New Zealand nearby, and he didn't play well. Under pressure, he's always been a little bit shaky, and that's what worries me about him. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes. In a game like this, where I think he's got his second chance, and in a rather new layout with new players, I've got a feeling he might have some trouble outside, considering his inside centre and scrum half are not people he play with regularly, and Yankees does seem to have an issue with adapting with two players. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects him. Talking about inside and outside centre, Jesse Creel and Damon de Arlander are taking up those positions, with de Arlander on inside, and I'm excited for him. De Arlander had a great Super Rugby and really deserves to be there, so I'm excited for him to see him do that. He did have a little bit of a shaky Currie Cup game in the last week, which I felt was disappointing, but it seems it didn't bother Rassie, so that's great. On the other hand, Jesse has had some pretty good Currie Cup games, even though the Bulls haven't had a lot of success there. He's had pretty good games, scoring I think 3 tries so far in the Currie Cup and having a couple of really good assists. So I'm glad to see that rewarding into it. And if I consider to currently to Adrian Esterhuizen and that I think there needs to be some new life in that, and I think it's good to see competition in those centre positions. So we'll see how that goes. Overall, interesting. Marks being on the bench, hopefully a second half push from him will really help the team pull over, considering we've always had a hard time in those last 10 minutes keeping our game. To be fair though, the current box have a hard time winning the game in the beginning, so maybe Rassie feels he needs to give more power at the end so he can catch up, because we've seemed to just keep on losing in the beginning and then we catch the game later. So we'll see how it goes. I'm optimistic for the game. I've got a feeling the Springboks will take it, nudge it by about 4 or 5 points. I know it'll be a surprise considering we haven't won in many years there, but it is a stunning team. On paper, it is one of the best Springbok teams we can put on the field. So I'm excited to see that, and I think it's a showcase of possible World Cup team for next year. So I'm very, very excited for it. Other than that, I think there's no other major focus points. So yeah, let's enjoy the game, and thank you guys for joining my channel. Thank you. Please subscribe if you enjoyed that. Please like, please share. Let's stand behind the box, stand behind whichever team you support. Let's go forward and have a good weekend. Thanks everybody, and good night.